Hi, and welcome. It's Dr. Steve from Misericordia University. In this video, let's take a look at developing an outline for the course research paper. In this video, let's begin by reviewing what we've already considered about writing a course research paper. Then let's consider how to formulate a search strategy, how to develop an outline. Let's gain an introduction to writing according to APA standards. And finally, let's conclude by introducing assignments related to this area. Let's begin with a quick review of our course research paper assignment and also Dr. Steve's process of writing a research paper. Remember that our course paper will consist of at least 8 pages. There'll be 5 double-spaced pages in the body, and then we'll have a title page, an abstract page, and finally a reference or a bibliography page. For this assignment, I'm asking for at least 5 pages in the body. If you find yourself going over by a page or two, that will be acceptable as well. Remember that our paper is going to be divided into sections, just as many journals and also even popular magazines do. In this video, I'm going to show you how to arrive at that place where you can determine those section heading names. Remember also that our assignment calls for you to cite at least 5 sources, meaning articles, and at least 3 of these sources, if not all of them, should be retrieved from Ebsco host. In this video, I'm going to take you on a better tour of the Ebsco host databases available through Misericordia's library. At our last class, I introduced more in depth my metaphor for writing a research paper, and I compare it to being a lawyer in a court case. When you look at the steps that a lawyer takes in preparing a case to take to court, he or she first frames the case, they search out evidence, then they present evidence, and then they finish by making a closing argument in front of the judge and/or jury. Likewise, when people are writing a research paper, we start by framing or defining our topic. We perform research, which will become our evidence, and then we write the paper in which we present that evidence, and then we finish by drawing a conclusion. In class, I mentioned that the first most important step in writing a research paper is to carefully define your topic. And I suggest that you frame your topic as a question, just like you're going to be a lawyer defending that question and answering that question in a court case. In high school, many people are given or are asked to provide some topic like distance learning or assistive technology or PowerPoint, and then go from there in order to prepare a paper. But I suggest that that's way too general and you don't know what to do exactly. Now, if you look at a question about distance learning, maybe is distance learning effective in the classroom? Well, now you know what to do and if you have performed it and accomplished it or not. In this case, I would go out and do some research, ideally at Ebsco host, and look for articles that deal with the effectiveness of distance learning technologies in the classroom. Now again, keep in mind as a lawyer, you are defining your case, you're framing it. So you could frame it as distance learning is effective or it's not effective. But either way, you cannot just give opinions. You have to go out and defend your case by citing evidence. And our evidence, as part of a research paper, will come from articles. Then we will set out to search for articles that are going to help us argue or prove that case. Keep in mind, we're going to be an honest lawyer with full disclosure. So if you find articles to the contrary of your case, be responsible, and you can certainly report on those too. In step 3, we're going to present the evidence. So at this point, just to give you a heads up of what that will look like in the context of a paper, if I, as the author of the paper, make a statement like distance learning technologies have the ability to make learning more efficient in some way, well, I can't stop there. I would then go on and say something like Broskowski and Banya in 2004 argue, or research suggests, or someone states in their article. Notice all of this is coming from evidence from research that we have performed. And ultimately, we will draw a closing argument, and more to be said as we draw closer to developing and finalizing the paper. Now, let's get into Ebsco host databases, and let's work on formulating a search strategy. Here I am at Misericordia's library homepage. To enter the Ebsco host databases, I'm going to begin by clicking on Journal Finder, and I'm going to click on Advanced Search. That will give me many more options. For example, I've got databases alphabetical and also databases by subject. When I click into by subject, in our field, I can click into education, and you'll notice there are a number of databases down here that we can get into, and several I will highlight for people who are working in the area of early childhood education. Primary search is a good source. For those who are mid-level people, Middle Search Plus is a good source. For all education majors, Academic Search Ultimate is a first good place to start and may be the best place for you to gain the majority of articles. I'm going to click into this. Now when I enter into the database, before I search, I'm going to suggest that you click into Sign In. It says Sign Into Folder. Here's the folder next door to this. I'm going to click into Sign In. And waiting for it to come around. And here it is. Now at this point, I could sign in if I have an account. If you don't have an account, it says Create One Now. So if you click into the Create, now you do not have to type in Misericordia particular things here. Notice they're saying create a username. Now for many of us, we just simply use our Misericordia username, but you don't have to. And then create a password. Again, this is not the Misericordia password. This is one that you make up. And the secret questions and so on. And what that's going to do is, and I'm just going to back out of this now because I already have an account, that's going to allow you when you come in to click Sign In and personalize this folder, and you're going to see us use that in a few minutes from now. And then when I go to do a search, before I search, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to select Misericordia Owned. Now, unless you're performing research for a capstone project or something where you want to be very inclusive and you know, do an exhaustive search of all possible articles that are available, then don't check that. But otherwise, if you click Misericordia Owned, it means it will be found online and be readable, or it will be found in the walls of the library physically itself, and again, be findable and readable. You don't have to go any place other than Misericordia to get that. And number two, if you click on full text, that will give the opportunity to actually be able to read the article and not have to go anywhere else in order to get that. Finally, there's something called scholarly or peer-reviewed. And scholarly means that the idea of peer-reviewed means that it's going to take some time for articles to be published in these types of high-level academic journals. Now, in terms of how long does it take? Well, when I've published personally in some certain peer-reviewed journals, it may take 6 months to a year for revisions, and basically it's like, as a professional, it's like you are being judged by a number of teachers, but they're your peers at that point. And these people will send back and tell you what's wrong and ask you to make some changes or corrections or rethink certain pieces. Realize in the area of technology, The latest technologies will not appear in these types of journals for a while. So for purposes of our course, Educational Technology, I suggest unchecking this. But just be aware that in some courses that you take, in some cases professors will say, yes, we want you to turn this on, and that's what it means. Having entered the EBSCOhost databases on our campus, it's now important to establish a search strategy. So we want to establish our court case. We have to start by formulating that case and focusing it. So let's say that your area of interest is PowerPoint. What possible court cases or theses could you explore in this area of content? Well, we could ask the question, because keep in mind you want to focus your title of your research as a question. Can teachers improve learning with PowerPoint? Maybe you could search for, does PowerPoint have the capacity to hold learner attention? Or maybe you want to focus on, does PowerPoint have a negative impact on the classroom? In each of these cases, you know what to search for. Like in terms of the first thought, can teachers improve learning? Well, I'm going to search for PowerPoint, and I'm going to search for words in articles that are going to deal with improving learning, improving grades, and things related to that. Let's look at another example. Let's say that your area of interest is iPads and their use in the classroom. Well, now let's establish a search strategy. First, let's determine what kind of court case we could attempt to prove. In other words, a thesis. We could look at things like, can teachers improve learning using iPads? Can iPads improve a very specific area, like maybe middle-level math classes? Can the use of iPads in the classroom promote higher understanding of the content? Or we could search for and try to prove, can the use of iPads in the classroom prove too distracting for learners? In other words, we could choose the negative side here if we want to. But keep in mind, we have to be open and go out to see what is being talked about, and can we find evidence in professional literature. As you approach EBSCOhost with your ideas on what you want to try to prove, it's important to come up with some key words and concepts. So for example, if I'm searching for iPads in the classroom, certainly I can use the word iPad, but I might also want to use the word tablet or handheld or mobile devices. And then I'm going to add a second term in there, such as classroom or teaching and education. So just like when we're in Google, we're going to start broadly, and then we're going to add other terms to hone in on exactly what it is we're looking for. Now let's try our hand at this directly in EBSCOhost. So I'm in Academic Search Ultimate, and I would have already signed into my folder. Now let me say I'm searching for iPads in the classroom and to see how they improve learning. And notice as I start typing, I'm getting ideas just like we do when we're searching on Google. So other ideas will pop up here, and maybe you can use some of those ideas. I'm going to start off with iPads, and then I'm going to type something. Well, before I type it, I'm going to try it first and show you why we need to type additional words. Misericordia owned, full text. I'm going to search. Now, don't be dismayed if you get only several thousand hits, because we're searching a very much limited, although it's very expansive here in one sense because it's all articles that are valuable for research, but it's not like searching the whole world of web pages on Google. You're not going to find like 57 million hits. That's not going to happen here. Now, I found 6,000 hits. Let me take a look at what's going on. And you're going to find all kinds of articles here. And some of these things are not at all going to be what I'm looking to find. So I might find, as I look through here, that maybe I'm finding things with the business and ads and like articles on products and how they work and so on. So this is why I will need to use a word like classroom or education. Now keep in mind, these are not concepts. We're looking for these words to actually be found in the articles or the article titles. So when I do this, I'm down to not even 200. But that's okay. That means that it's working the way it should be. These will be much more focused on what I want to do. Now, let me start looking at this. Now, at this stage of the research, keep an open mind. Do you know exactly what you're going to search for just yet? Do you know exactly what your whole topic will be? Probably not. It's important to note that when you're doing a research paper, you want to make sure that there is research out there on your topic. If no one has written anything much about the topic, if your technology is too cutting edge and there's not much written on it, maybe you want to change it, or maybe you want to expand your topic. So let me take a look. So here's something about iPads. I could take a look at it. Now, at this stage, what I say is anything that looks at all remotely possible that I could use it, I'm going to place it in my folder. Now, we talked about creating a folder and signing up for one and then signing into it. Let's say, okay, writing in the early years. I didn't think about that. Maybe I could look at writing using iPads, and maybe I'm going to focus on early childhood. That could be interesting. So here's something about here's another early childhood. All right, let me go and add these to my folder. So notice I can hit this little folder plus button, and I can add those to the folder. Here's possible uses of iPads. Okay, I'm not sure if I could use that or not. At this point, don't get hung up by reading the articles. Notice I can read them. Underneath it says PDF and full text, because I did suggest full text that I wanted to limit this to. Up here it says HTML full text. So that simply means it won't be a page out of a journal like PDF. It will be a web page, but I'll still get all the material, all the content. Now, at this point, I'm not going to read any of these articles, but I could click the name of the article and read the little abstract that's provided, because this will just give me a paragraph or so, and I could get a better idea. Can I use this or not? If I say yes, over here on the right, here's another add to folder. I can put it in. As easily as I can add it, I can take it out. And that's important because many of these articles, in the end, we may not be able to use. Now, instead of hitting the back button on the browser, notice they give you a refine and they say go back to the result list. I'm going to use their buttons and their links. If I hit the back button and I have already put something, let's say, into my folder, hitting the back button takes me back a step, possibly before I added it. In other words, you could undo some things that you have already done and you'll lose track of them. So don't hit the back button on the browser when you're in this product. Instead, use the back button that they provide. And normally it will say something like left arrow back and go back to the result list. Now, here's an interesting idea. I didn't think about maybe doing something with STEM or some other areas of teaching exceptional children. Let me take a look at that. Notice how I'm kind of open and open-minded when I'm looking at this level of my research. Let me show you two other tricks while we're here. If you find that not only this article, but hey, there's a journal I didn't know about, or here are authors I didn't know about, and maybe those could be good links to find more helpful information. I could click into any of these things if I want to see what this author has written and as hosted here in the Ebsco host database. Excuse me, I have it right here. So here are 3 articles that author has written, because chances are, if this author is focusing on this type of research in this area, these could be other good sources of information for me. I'm going to go back now, and let's go back to this screen. Let's say I want to look into the journal at this point. I found the journal. Maybe this is the journal where I'm going to find other things of interest. And notice, here are all the years of the journal that are available through our campus. If I click on 2020, so I'll get the most recent ones, they have 6 different issues available. I'm going to click on one of those issues. And if I do, the hit list that I get now, these are all articles in that particular volume of that journal. In other words, it's like I stumbled across this journal on the shelves of the library and said, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Let me peruse through those. So that can be of help as well. One other thing that can be helpful, I'm just going back now, when I clicked into that article title, notice they also give you different subject terms. Again, the library and the librarians are thinking differently than the Google people think. So in this case, look at the other terms that are here, like audio-visual aids in preschool, or just in general, computers in education, or STEM. There's different terms here that you could either click into these and perform a search immediately, or even better yet, you might want to add one of these terms into your search. And that way I could perfect the search just a little bit more. So when I go back up to here, if I wanted to put STEM, for example, I could then type it here, and I can add that to my search. Now I'm down to 7. So notice you can find fewer and more focused hits, but hopefully in the end they're going to be very focused and give you the better quality of what you're looking for. Another point here, I put iPads and classroom. But by using the word classroom, I did cut out some of the business and some of the other types of articles that I'm probably not looking for. But might I have removed some good articles in the process? Might some of these good articles that are focused for me say the word education in them instead of just iPads? I'm going to remove the word STEM for now. Go back to my original. So iPads instead of and classroom, iPads and education. And let's see how that result list comes up. Now, instead of the 200 that I received, I'm now up to 750. So keep in mind that we can experiment with the words. So as part of our search strategy, look for words that might be found either in the articles or in the descriptions or in the titles of the articles. And one more point while we're here. All of those things that I've been searching for and I've been stuffing into my folder, at any point I can click into my folder up top, and this is going to be a list of everything that I have already added. And as long as you have signed in to your folder, even should the power go out, it's constantly saved, and you will still have that material until you physically remove it by clicking on one or more items and saying delete. Now, having taken a look at developing a search strategy, let's turn our focus toward how to develop an outline. Now that you've identified some keywords, start your search. What I'm going to suggest is a 2-pass search. In other words, search a first time, and this time put potential articles, stuff them into your Ebsco host folder. And just as I had just been demonstrating, read the titles, look at the abstract if you need to, but don't take the time to read entire articles at this point, because that's going to take you off track and kind of interrupt your rhythm of trying to locate and keep the overview of what your topic is going to be and how these articles may relate to and support that topic. So the first time you search, just go through, try some different search terms, and if an article even looks that you could possibly use it, stuff it into your Ebsco host folder. After you've completed your first searching round and you feel that you've found a lot of good ideas and probably have located a lot of good articles, now let's go back through those list of articles. In other words, your second search is not in general, but you're going to search your folder. At this point, take another look at the names of the articles, and right there you'll be able to identify a lot of articles that could be usable and those that cannot be, and simply delete those that cannot be. But in some cases now, you may have to click into the abstracts and read that paragraph or so, that short description. And again, see if you can use it, and if you can't, then delete it. Now, sometimes in this process, you might need to click into the full text of the article to decide if that's usable or not. But again, at this stage, don't get too hung up on reading articles. Mostly spend the majority of your time searching through your folder for titles and abstracts and try to determine if these articles could be useful or not. Stay open-minded at this stage of the search. What happens if all the searches you performed, you look back in your folder and find you don't have many articles? Well, then at this point, maybe you want to either select another topic, or maybe you can alter this topic. For example, if you were looking at iPads to improve math, and that was your focused topic, well, are there any articles talking about maybe math and science? Again, you're the lawyer in this case, so you can frame that case a little differently. If you were looking for the use of cell phones in the classroom, and you only found a limited number of articles, not enough to support writing a research paper, well, could you combine cell phones and another technology, maybe cell phones and Promethean boards? It's possible, and that's because you're the lawyer, you get to frame the case. So stay open-minded. And also see what people are talking about as you're looking at these articles. Maybe you're going to get different ideas as you look at the titles and the abstracts, and it may lead you into different directions that you didn't even know existed. At this point, having done 2 passes on the search, now you're ready to identify themes in the articles that you researched. We're going to take those articles and place them in categories based on their themes, and then these categories are going to help us to develop the outline for the course research paper. For example, when researching the topic of distance learning, let's say I found articles talking about the following types of things, definitions and descriptions of what distance learning is. Now right there, maybe I didn't realize that distance learning is a broad term, and it covers all types of different modes of distance learning delivery. So I list that down as one theme that some of the articles talk about. I found many articles talking about advantages of using distance learning in the classroom. I did also find some disadvantages of distance learning technologies. I also found a number of examples of good and poor practices of distance learning in the classroom. Notice that I'm not making these themes up, I'm finding these themes. As I look at articles, whether I'm looking at the titles, the abstract, or once I start looking at the articles themselves, these items start to pop out at me, and I start to find commonalities or themes. These themes will help me develop my outline. Now I can use the themes that I've identified from the articles that I searched out, and I can create an outline for my course paper. At this point, I'm going to start my outline by saying introduction and conclusion, because every paper, just like any speech or any class that you teach, they will all have an introduction and a conclusion. So I will already put those down. Now, I did find that one of my themes was the fact that distance learning is broad and it covers all kinds of different technologies, and it can be defined in different ways. So in this case, I'm going to create a An outline point, what is distance learning? So I can just define it and introduce it. I did find advantages, I found some disadvantages, and I found positive practices. This now becomes the outline for my paper. As part of the writing process, I'm going to ask you to give me an initial proposed outline for your course research paper. Now keep in mind that just the way it is in the real world with researchers, we start off with some ideas, but sometimes those ideas get altered as we start performing research. In other words, whatever you propose at this time is not set in concrete or stone. It could be changed as you start to research a little more. Now, let's take a few moments to gain a brief introduction to APA. So what exactly is APA? Well, at Misericordia University, the faculty in a number of different disciplines require that all papers, posters, and any other research activities be formatted according to APA publication standards. So what does APA mean? Well, it refers to the American Psychological Association. Now, how does this relate to the field of education? APA publishes a book called The Publication Manual of the APA. It's about a 200-page book in its latest iteration, now in the 6th edition. Many educational researchers use the formatting that APA suggests in order to prepare papers, posters, and other materials for publication. Because of this, many colleges and many universities have adopted these publication guidelines for academic papers that are prepared in their institutions. Overall, the APA manual focuses on two main items. Number one is how to prepare a printed manuscript. And that's everything from designing the title page, the kind of fonts you use, the margins, and so on. And the second focus is how to cite the work of others. And that occurs both throughout the text of the paper as well as on your reference page or bibliography. And the purpose here is so that you can give credit to other authors for their original work or ideas, so that you do not accidentally commit plagiarism. What resources exist where you can learn more about APA and APA formatting? Well, certainly you can take a look at the publication manual of the APA, and it's in our library, and you can also purchase it in our university bookstore. APA also features a page in which they talk about their style. So it's called ws.apastyle.org. I also created a web page called Help with APA. And on this page, and we'll walk through that throughout our course, you'll find a number of resources that can help you both in this course and in courses beyond how to navigate the waters of APA formatting when you're creating your work. Keep in mind that when you refer to someone else's ideas or words, you must cite them in two places in a research paper and other scholarly works: in the text of the paper and also in the reference section. Further, realize that you must give credit whenever you use another person's ideas or opinions or theories. When you refer to any drawings or graphics or anything that's not common knowledge. Anytime that you quote another person's actual spoken or written words, or anytime that you paraphrase another person's spoken or written words. So in high school, many times we're taught to only cite when you're directly quoting someone. But at this point, we realize that anytime you're going to refer to somebody else's ideas, that you must give them credit so that you can avoid accidentally plagiarizing. Now let's focus on how to list sources in APA format. As an overview, this is the format that APA asks us to use when we're creating a bibliography or reference page. We're going to start with the author's names, the year of publication, the title of the article and the journal, and then the issue number if it's appropriate, and also page numbers if we can find them, especially if we're in the electronic format. So let's take a close-up look at these for a moment. So we start with the author's last name or names and first initial. Notice APA is particular here. You do not use the first full name or a middle name, but rather we use initials. If we have multiple authors, before the last author's name, we separate it with, instead of the word and, we put the ampersand character. And then we follow this with parentheses and the year of publication of the article followed by a period. Kind of like that's a sentence by itself. The next part is a little different. We write the article title like it's a sentence, so it's not title case. In other words, we're not capitalizing every word of the title, but rather we capitalize the first word and then we put a period at the end of it. A little different, but that's APA formatting. Then the journal title is written as you would expect with capital letters, and also we italicize. Then we'll follow that with any information like this that is also found in conjunction with this journal and this article. If there's a volume number, if there's an issue number, and if we can locate page numbers of the article, then we include all of those as well. In addition to this information, many articles will also offer a DOI number. And a DOI means Digital Object Identifier. And librarians are striving to make this kind of like a social security number or a license number, if you will, of individual articles. So that ideally, if you present this number, you'll be able to locate that exact article. So if that DOI number is presented, then you simply put that at the end of this entry in the bibliography or the reference page. If no DOI is listed, then standards say that we should type information about the database where we found this, again in the absence of the DOI. So here I'm listing retrieved from Academic Source Ultimate. And the reason for this is librarians indicate that maybe some sources, like some articles, when they're published and republished in different places, maybe there will be some changes. So this way we can be sure of which version did the person actually read. Now sometimes you'll find oddities that will not match this model of writing this bibliography entry. For example, what happens if there's no author actually listed in an article? When there's no author, then we simply move the title to where the author would normally go. So here I've taken the title of this article, I bumped it over to the left, and then I put the year of publication after it, and so I just simply skipped the author position. While you should perform the majority of your searching at EBSCOhost and other professionally respected sources like it, sometimes you're going to be searching for something that is so cutting edge that you do need to search the web in general. So if you do, how do you cite a web page? What we do is we try to fill in the same information from the standard APA model. So here, notice that we're going to type the author's name, so I'll do it the same way, or authors using the ampersand, and I may have to put ND for no date. For example, on my web pages, I don't actually put the date of when I publish them. For me, it's because I'm constantly updating and changing those pages. So if you cannot find a date of publication, you put ND, meaning no date. And then I would go on to put the title of the web page. Now sometimes you can find the title in the title bar of the web page, or maybe whatever is written, the text on the top of the web page. And then finally, because it's not from a journal, we're then going to type retrieved from and the exact URL. Now, keep in mind, this is not the home page of the person, but rather the exact URL that the reader of your paper could type in and could then locate that exact same page. But again, be careful that if you're using a web page, make sure that it is professionally respected material. Let's look at one other source that does not exactly fit into APA's format for a bibliography entry. Let's say you're going to online reference material, such as an online dictionary or Wikipedia. What we do in this case is APA says type the title of the entry. So what's the name of what you looked up? Is it a word in a dictionary? Is it a particular article in Wikipedia? You type that, followed by a period. Again, there probably will not be an exact date listed, so then you'll put ND. Next, to make it easy for the reader to understand, we'll put in whatever the source is, like Wikipedia or a certain dictionary name. And then, as we suggested doing with other web pages, put retrieved from and put the exact URL. Again, it's not the home page of Wikipedia or the dictionary site like dictionary.com, but rather the exact URL that the reader can simply click this or type this and go directly to that particular page. Now, let me show you a very useful tool that's available directly in Ebsco Host. Here I'm in my folder, and I want to cite some of my articles that I found. This first one looks very usable to me, so I'm going to click into it, and when I look on the right-hand side, after it comes up, here it says Cite, C-I-T-E. So, in other words, create a citation. So I'm going to click on that. Now, notice that takes me to this screen where I've got all different formats available. Here's AMA, and Chicago style, and so on. The one I'm looking for is APA. So I can take this. Notice this one has the DOI number available. I can now copy this. And then I could go ahead and paste this directly into a Word document or other word processing tool. So by doing this, and first of all, it'll do most of the work for you. But second of all, since we took a brief overview of what it's supposed to look like, if there are some errors in here, and here's a typical error that occurs, maybe the author's names will be completely capitalized, all caps, or that sometimes happens here with the title of an article. Well, then you know that that's wrong, and then you can make those adjustments. And those errors can happen in any tool. So click the Cite tool, find the APA version, and simply copy and paste this out. Now, let me show you one or two other quick tricks. When I go to paste that article title in and information, so I did Control-V to paste it in, it may show up in word processing in a number of different ways. Remember, if you're in tools like Microsoft Word, here's a smart button with paste options. I can look at all of them simply by rolling over them. So here, I'm finding text only. It's strictly text. I just lost the italics. When I roll over here and I'm merging the formatting, I find that I'm getting the italics and I'm getting the text, and that looks good. So I'll probably use that format. But depending how your system is set up, you might get something like this. So realize if you find this type of thing, like notice I've got gray behind here, it's changing the some of the formatting, and it's not going to be straight up text. I could go in and maybe choose one of these paste special options and then make some changes. Here's another trick that can help you in the Microsoft Word area. Let's say that this title came with all capital letters, which all caps would be wrong. How could I quickly change this? I've highlighted the text and I've clicked on Shift and F3. Every time I click Shift F3, it's changing the capitalization. So this is a very fast way to change this from all caps or title case, which means every letter capitalized, which in APA would be wrong. It allows me to get all small letters, and then I'm going to go in and just capitalize the first word, because now this title looks like a sentence. So a little trick, a little tech trick, Shift F3 after you highlight can help you make those changes very quickly. To conclude, we're going to hold two assignments relative to Module 3 and what we just looked at in this video. Number one is going to be a follow-up to this video, and that's going to be a discussion board. So log into Ebsco Host, establish an account so you can obtain a personal folder as we described in this video, and then do just a preliminary search to help you focus in on a possible topic. On the discussion board, just briefly list one or two possible areas that you might be thinking of as a topic. If you're already tuning in on a particular topic, just list it down. And also, should you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to mark those on that discussion board as well. And this will serve two things. Number one, it'll help you to focus and hone in a little more clearly on your topic. And number two, maybe others can take a look at your ideas and we can inspire each other as we prepare to write this course paper. The second assignment is going to involve submitting your topic, your proposed outline, and several sources that you might use. But we will not assign that at this time. Let's discuss details of this assignment at our next in-person class. Final hint is select a topic soon. Don't allow the search for the perfect topic to be the enemy of you getting something good done. Pick any technology-related topic, do some preliminary research, and just make sure there's enough information out there in order to pursue this topic, and then start looking at defining your topic as a court case. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll discuss it more at our next class.